Good morning. Just gone past midday. So good afternoon, everybody. Everything seems to be full steam ahead, ready for the online rally, Mamplified, which is the weekend of the 13th of May. That's a Friday. That's Friday the 13th in America, of course, because of the time difference. In Australia, it'll be Saturday morning when it starts. But anyway, things are coming together, schedules getting put together, and people being contacted with regards to coming and having chats. And hopefully we'll get that all sorted out in the not too distant future, so everybody knows what's going on. And of course, prior to these online rallies, which I know are, you thoroughly enjoy them. They are very, very popular. Thank you, Jock. It doesn't hurt to do a little retrospective of the case so far. So here's an article which was actually released 15 years to the day that Stephen Avery was bizarrely found guilty of the murder. Maybe not so bizarrely with the threats that the jury received from the Sheriff's Department at Calumet. Anyway, here we go. So as I say, this is an article from the 18th of March. As I say, it's always a good idea. There's two articles that run consecutively. One that looks at Stephen's case, one that looks more at Brendan's. So, making a murder, Stephen Avery's lawyer says they're making substantial progress on the case, as usual. A couple of pictures of Steve there. Kathleen Zellner, the lawyer representing Steve and leading his bid for freedom, has shared an update regarding his case. Taken to Twitter on Thursday to update her followers on any new developments, Kathleen said Stephen's legal team were making substantial progress. After being wrongfully convicted and then released for sexual assault and attempted murder in the Penny Bernstein case, Steve was convicted for the 2005 murder of Teresa Halbach. His exoneration, thanks to DNA evidence in 2003, his conviction for Halbach's murder was covered in the Netflix documentary series Making a Murder, with many supporters convinced of his innocence. And it's always worth pointing out, particularly when we're coming onto these online rallies, we get support from around the globe, from the 4 quarters of the globe. I remember 3 years ago, it's just gone 3 years, 2019, we were, the 4 of us were in Australia together, and wearing a control question t-shirt, going into shops and people asking, oh, how's the case doing? They knew exactly what the t-shirt was about. Well, they maybe didn't know what the control question was, but they certainly knew who Brendan Dassey was. It just hits everybody so hard, doesn't it, when they see what happened to Stephen Brendan. Speaking this week, Zauna tweeted, "We are working every day on Stephen's case and we are making substantial progress. We will never give up in our quest to rectify this miscarriage." And of course, we're looking forward to this new evidence that Kathleen has been developing, and her petition that is hopefully going to be filed soon. He has always maintained his innocence and believes he was framed by the Manitowoc County Police Department. Well, of course, some of us take a little bit of exception to this. Please get it right. It's not the police department, it's the Sheriff's Department. The police department were actually active in trying to prevent the 1985 wrongful conviction by saying, we think you've got the wrong guy, we think it's Gregory Allen, but they weren't bothered in interested in listening. So yeah, he believes he was framed by the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department after he sued them for wrongful conviction for the previous conviction. And he didn't actually sue them in 2003. I think it was more 2004. in 2005 that he was actually suing them. In 2021, new evidence emerged that could exonerate Steve and prove his innocence in the murder case. A court filing on 13th April 2021 stated that a delivery driver had come forward and said he saw Bobby Dassey, Ava's nephew, with an unidentified bearded man in his 50s to 60s pushing a Toyota RAV4, the model Holbach was driving, onto the Avery property in the early hours of 5th of November 2005. This placed Stephen Avery's nephew, Bobby Dassey, Brendan Dassey's brother, at the scene of the crime. And Brad Dassey, who is Brendan's half-brother, then claimed that his Uncle Steve is innocent and suggested his stepmother, Barb, might have something to do with the case. Yeah, that's always an interesting one, isn't it? Days later, on 23rd of April, Kathleen Zauna accused the state of Wisconsin of withholding crucial evidence in a letter after the new witness came forward. Because, of course, Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department had done nothing at all about the witness coming forward. I believe his name is Thomas Sawinski. However, Avery's legal team faced a major setback in July 2021 when the court rejected Avery's appeal, with Zauna tweeting, "Not deterred by the appellate court decision, it pointed out the specific doors that are still open for Steve's quest for freedom. We appreciate the careful review." I don't know that she's that appreciative of them. And if the name had been anything other than Stephen Avery, they would have been granted a retrial, or more likely just released because of the amount of evidence that points away from Steve. Now, another update came in August 2021 when it was announced that Steve had asked the Wisconsin Supreme Court to take on his case. In January this year, Zauna has tweeted there is a huge amount of new evidence in his case. I suppose they've missed the point there that the Supreme Court were not interested in looking at Steve's case. Zauna tweeted in January, there is a huge amount of new evidence in the case. Just in case any of you are wondering, we are working as hard as ever on Stephen Avery's case, she said. We will be filing a new petition with a huge amount of new evidence. We will never give up pounding on the doors of justice for him. To find out more about Steve's wrongful conviction, his conviction of Teresa Holbach murder, and all the updates from the case so far, visit our page here. Well, I'm already at the page here, aren't I? Making a murderer. Brendan Dassey's case so far in 2022. Now, isn't that an interesting picture? Yeah, isn't that a very interesting picture? Although Bobby Dassey may now be a suspect in the Teresa Holbach murder, his younger brother, Brendan, is the one serving time in prison. Now, that's the way they do it in Manitowoc. Here's everything we know about Brendan Dassey and his case in 2022. Brendan Dassey was convicted for the murder of the freelance photographer at the same time as his uncle, Steve, in 2007. Again, one or two things not quite right, but he was convicted in 2007. He was arrested in 2006. He was 16 at the time of the arrest. True crime fans across the globe, at least they're acknowledging that we are across the world, have kept their eyes on the case as 2 seasons of the hit Netflix series Making a Murderer revealed how lawyers tried to prove their innocence. We're now all eagerly awaiting the announcement of season 3. I haven't heard anything at all. But yeah, let's hope that there is a series 3. Even the reality TV star and law student Kim Kardashian West has expressed her support for Brendan Dassey. In 2019, she tweeted Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers and urged him to read Brendan Dassey's letter requesting a pardon. So, Kim Kardashian, please, Governor Evers, read this letter. NBC News. Advocates for Brendan Dassey have promoted a website containing a list of documents related to his case, including a handwritten letter from Brendan addressed to Governor Evers. And there's the, I presume, the site that you go to. I'm not too sure which one it is, but who is Brendan Dassey? Now, well, Brendan is Stephen Avery's nephew. He is the son of Stephen Avery's sister, Barb, who's named Tarek, which also makes him Dolores and Alan Avery's grandson. Brendan, who has an older brother, Bobby Dassey, and half-brother, Brad Dassey. Earlier, well, they've missed out another, Brian and Blaine, haven't they? But never mind. Earlier this year, Brad spoke out about Barb Tarek's possible tampering with evidence in the case and argues that his uncle Avery is innocent. His uncle Steve, sorry. Anyway, Brendan is in his 30s now. He was incarcerated as a teenager in his final year of high school. In his letter to Tony Evers in 2019, he said he aspires to work in the video games industry if and when he is released from prison. But so far, Evers has rejected Brendan's request of a pardon, despite a huge amount of backing. Is Brendan Dassey still in prison? He came very close to being released a while back. As of 2022, 31-year-old Brendan Dassey is still serving his sentence at Oshkosh Correctional Institution, a correctional facility in Wisconsin. At age 17, Brendan Dassey was convicted of first-degree homicide in the Teresa Halbach case and charged with rape, murder, and mutilation of a corpse. Brendan Dassey did not plead guilty to the murder after police interrogated him 4 times in 48 hours. He immediately recanted it. His lawyers say that coercive language was used. He might have, well, he didn't actually admit to anything. They just said, put words in his mouth, and he just acquiesced. Anyway, yes. 4 times in 48 hours. The lawyers say that coercive language was used, meaning the police put the words into his mouth. His lawyer, Laura Nyrider, said he had consequently confessed to a crime he did not commit. A CNN report said that Dassey's lawyers believe he was sentenced, quote, based solely on his confession with no physical evidence. When will Brendan Dassey be released? Unless his lawyers are successful in securing his early release, the earliest Brendan could be eligible for parole is 2048, when he'll be nearly 60. But remember, only if he then admits guilt. I don't think he would, having stuck it out this far. But hopefully we'll get Steve out ASAP, and Brendan will quickly follow. The case against Brendan, with no DNA evidence to link, conclusively or otherwise, link Brendan to the murder, his legal team set about a post-conviction fight for his freedom in 2007. Laura Nyrider was a legal student at this time and is now his lead counsel. In 2017, Dassey's legal team attempted to get his conviction overturned, citing the leading, the fact-feeding, the false promises, the manipulation of Dassey's desire to please, among many factors which they argued, his involuntary confession to the murder. The appeal was rejected by the en banc 7th Circuit Court after those judges ruled Dassey had spoken freely after Miranda warnings with his mother's consent. Miranda does seem to be a big issue there, because he waived it, not knowing what it was. In a statement following this decision, Laura said she would continue to fight for Brendan and the many other children who have been wrongfully convicted due to the use of coercive interrogation tactics. She said, "This is a problem which isn't unique to Brendan's case. Over the past 20 years, extensive empirical and psychological research has shown that children under 18 are between 3 and 4 times more likely to falsely confess than adults, and yet the criminal justice system fails many of them. It's up to the courts to put an end to this." The only thing I would say there, though, is that it's not unique to Dassey's case. I'm not sure about that. I think that the whole reason for getting at Brendan was to ensure the conviction of Steve. It is quite a unique case, isn't it? I mean, how often do sheriff's departments get people suing them for wrongful conviction after 18 years, and then go to the lengths that Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department did of executing, assassinating, or having assassinated Teresa. Of course, some of you out there think that it's all one big setup, and I must admit, until we find out who the bones that were handed back to the Holbachs really are, then that suspicion will always be there. Here we have a clip of Brendan. I'm not going to play it. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's the famous Uyghur comes in the room. Did you get you want a sandwich? Did you get your soda? It's all the stuff that they're meant to say to him, to show that they're being really nice and kind. And then he says to them, how long will this be? Oh, why is that? He says, because I've got this project due. He's more concerned about his schoolwork than any of the consequences of anything he's said so far, because he knows he's just been making it up, and he thinks they will go and check out what he said, discover he was wrong, and say, right, you're very bad, you must tell the truth in future, and not just go with what you want, what you think we want you to say. Anyway, as I say, in August 27, an en banc hearing in the appellate court was granted. En banc means French for on the bench, meaning all of the judges. And it involves a hearing of all arguments in front of a whole panel of judges, not just one. During this hearing, Judge Lana Rovner said Brendan Dassey was an intellectually impaired juvenile and that his conviction should not stand. But in December 2017, Brendan's grant of habeas, meaning he can stand before a judge to secure his release, was reversed. The fight has continued all the way to the Supreme Court, with Brendan's legal team and now supported by a number of influential people, including to Freedom for Brendan Dassey, influential people, according to Freedom for Brendan Dassey, that includes former US Solicitor General and seasoned Supreme Court litigator, Mr. Seth Wexman, and his team from William, Cutler, Pickering, Hale, and Dorr, based out of Washington. Brendan's writ of certiorari, meaning the appellate court decides to review a case at its discretion, was filed with the US Supreme Court on 20th February 2018. In May 2021, of course, they rejected the writ of certiorari. They declined to look at Brendan's case, which was very disappointing. And anyway, very interesting. In May 21, lawmakers in Illinois passed a bill that prevents police from lying to children during questioning in an effort to prevent false confessions, according to the New York Times. This means that Illinois was the first state to pass such a law. The bill, which had bipartisan support, was partially inspired by Brendan's conviction, Laura said. As for further updates on his case in 2022, we'll just need to wait and see. As usual, I will post the link to these two articles so that you can have a look at them at your leisure. But it's obviously Making a Murderer is still being watched by people for the first time, and so there's always new people joining the cause, as it were. And to be honest, there's a lot to catch up on. The interesting thing, of course, is that by the time they get around to doing a season 3 of Making a Murderer, most of us will have already had the front row seat to see what was happening, because we're following the case live. Maybe it'll just be a few more days before we get to see Kathleen Zellner's filing. That will be interesting, because of the amount of stuff that she says she's got, and also the most people believe that there are certain things that she's not gone into just yet, and she's saving them for the right moment. Anyway, we've still got the final episode of The Dude and Professor Leo, but that'll do for today, and we'll catch you all again soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.